we were just talking to Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
And he was telling us, he thought he was playing the best ball of his career until appendicitis hit out of nowhere. So, just how much are you looking forward to seeing him, kind of put that weird year behind him and take the next step forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny he says that. I was really impressed with the entire year, and we went back and looked at it in the offseason, and I thought he played at a really high level and was a huge part of our success on offense. So, it's funny to hear him say that. I know he holds himself to a very high standard, so anytime you can get a player like that and get him out on the field for 17 games, you're going to be better off than if he was out. So, really looking forward to that.
What's the state of mind of Njoku at this camp?
I think it's been great. I mean, I think the funny thing, I know there's been a lot of noise on the outside. My experience with him, really from the day I got here, has been very positive. I mean, in terms of the way the kid works, he prepares, the product he puts out on the field, it's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun to be around and a lot of fun to coach.
The way he ended the year, contributing a lot more than the first half, is he number 2 right now?
I think it's funny, and that question gets asked a lot. We're almost in a room of 3 ones, and I think I've said that before. When you have 3 guys of that level of talent, they all do different things well. It's our job as coaches to put them in a position to go out and be a part of our success, and I think they were last year, and they'll certainly continue to be this year as we get going.
Austin just told us that really all 3 guys can play every position. So I'm assuming that's a rarity, but what kind of luxury is that?
Yeah, I without going through it, the entire league right now in my mind, I'd say it's very rare. And it's definitely a luxury that we don't take for granted and something we try to highlight as often as possible. I mean, it creates a ton of issues for the defense, right? Because no matter where that guy's lined up or there's no tells, he can do all the jobs, and it certainly gives us a lot of advantages on offense, we feel like.
When you look at Austin's numbers, he had 75 catches his last year in Atlanta, I think 49 with you guys.
Yeah.
So how do you measure his contribution other than catches?
Yeah, I think that's a stat that for us it means I want to say nothing, but very little. And our focus is on your contribution to the end product, and that's having one more point than the defense when the game ends. And that can be in run blocking, can be in route running, can be in contested catch situations, third down. There's just so many aspects that go into that we feel like he excels at and excelled for us last year that we were so excited about getting everybody back this season.
Cooper said he spent a lot of time with Baker. Can you tell anything about just how their chemistry? Have you noticed anything since?
Yeah, I think you see. I mean, even something I know they spent a little time last year. Obviously, that was limited based on the COVID protocols and everything like that. So I think this year having a little bit more of an off season, having a more normal training camp experience, is certainly going to aid those guys. I mean, they get along really well off the field. The more reps you can get together, no matter what you're trying to do, you're going to be better at it. And I think you've seen that even in a short period of time here this training camp.
Drew, what advantage is it for you guys? Not only returning all 11 starters, but it's like your top, 20 guys off last year's offense. What advantage is that for your coaching staff that you guys are trying to build off the way you finished last year?
Yeah, I think it's got to be rare just knowing the nature of the NFL. And I think the big thing for us is when you have new players or it's year one like it was last year, you spend a lot of time teaching language, of terminology, of what we call things, how we want things done. And this year, with so few new players, the focus can be now on technique and the nuance and maybe some of the things we're seeing from a defense that, especially at this time of year, we didn't have the ability to focus on because we were just trying to install the offense.
It felt like David made more plays as the year went on last year. Did you see him get better as the year went on, and if so, what ways? Yeah,
I think you certainly saw the production increase a little bit, but I wouldn't say that I saw him like a massive jump in his performance, I guess, in that way. A lot of it can be based on opportunity, and some of that's scheme, some of that's what the defense is taking away or not taking away. I thought he did a great job last year when he did get his opportunities of going out and making big plays for us and playing at a high level. And I think that speaks to his work ethic and kind of what he's done to put himself in this position over the course of his career. I mean, he takes this very seriously. He's very passionate about it, and I think that shows up on the field.
Coach, do you think the evolution of the tight end going to continue? I mean, we see like a different athlete playing the position now than we ever did, and teams using them in a variety of ways. Do you think that's just going to continue to grow?
I think it's going to depend on who the people are.
Yeah.
Like anything, as those guys continue to come out of college football, I think it's our job as coaches when you have someone with that level of talent compared to the rest of the league to use them in that way. So yeah, I think and some of that comes from the nature of the college game, and some of that comes from genetics and so many other things. But I wouldn't be shocked. I think it allows you to create so many issues for a defense when you have those guys that can do so many different roles, which we talked about earlier. So yeah, I would expect that trend to continue here as we go through the time.
We talk about rookies going into this, going from a rookie year to a second year. There's always that talk about a leap how do you think that can show up for Harrison Bryant?
Yeah, I think the thing about him that one of the things that allowed him to have success last year that I think will help you see that jump is just that he learns from every single rep he gets. You know, he never makes the same mistake twice. He's always watching other people do things or asking guys questions and just learning about the game of football. You know, the tight end position he played in college, kind of to the question we just got, was different than the tight end role maybe he had here last year. So there's some things that we asked him to do that he was doing for the first time. And I think anytime you can get in here and do it over and over and over again, you're going to get better at it, especially of a guy with his physical talent and his work ethic.
You guys used so many 2 and 3 tight end sets last year, but you also bring back so many of the top receivers from a year ago and those 2 running backs that you have. Do you think you'll use the same high volume of tight ends?
You know, I couldn't answer that question. It'd be that would give away all our secrets. No, I think ultimately I think it's a week-to-week thing, and it's a combination of who's healthy, who's playing well, what the defense. You know, they have some good players too, and we got to attack their weaknesses. So I can't say it's going to be more or less. I think it's going to be very dependent on kind of how the flow of the year goes and who our opponents are.
The tight ends were so helpful last year in the run game. Just touch on that aspect and just what you guys can do even better this year to help those guys out.
Yeah, and it speaks to the versatility of that room. You know, kind of as we talked about, guys that can run routes and catch balls, but also sit in line and block defensive ends, but also play in space. You know, it's a huge part of this run game. If you're going to have 2 of the backs that we have, and really 3 or 4 of the backs that we have, that's going to be a big part of your offense because those guys deserve to have the ball in their hand. And we take that part of our role in the tight end room very seriously. I think that, as you said, we did some things really well. And looking through the offseason, there's definitely some techniques in certain plays where you're saying, hey, I think we can be better here. And we spent a lot of time studying this is how and this is why. And we're hoping that shows up this year on tape.
Hey, Drew, you know Kevin as well as anybody. He's kind of set the bar a little high after winning Coach of the Year first year. But what makes him such a good coach?
I think, and it's funny you said it, like he did win Coach of the Year last year, and I think he would say this, I mean, he probably already has, is it starts over, right? So he's like every other coach in this league. We're 0-0, and we got a lot of work to do during training camp, and I think it's that mindset and the way that he preaches that and really shows that to the team that gets guys to buy in and continue to come to work and try to get better.
Well, in all your time with Hooper, is there something you learned about him that you didn't know, or is he's better at something that you didn't than you thought, or just something that struck you in your time with him so far?
And you're going to say football-wise, because I didn't know he was into traveling. That was new to me.
No, that's okay. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be
Yeah,
football too, but-
football-wise, I think one of the things coming out of Atlanta with the stats he had, I didn't think he was as physical in the run game as we saw last season. I think he did a really nice job of embracing that role and excelling in that role, and it was a big part of our success, and I think that really surprised me, and I was really impressed by it.
How does a guy get better as a blocker over the course of his career? Especially like these young guys don't block at all. Like
Yeah.
and we kind of thought the same thing. Like Austin catches 80 passes
Yeah.
in Atlanta. So other than reps, how do you get better as a blocker?
I think a lot of it is a focus on 2 things that I think a guy can really work on. One is the technique of it, and having a guy like Bill Callahan, for those guys to lean on. I mean, I think he said this was his 43rd training camp or something like that. So he's seen and coached a lot of ball. So to have someone who can preach the little intricate details of run blocking, I think can really improve. Because as you said, if you've never done it, like I get the idea, I can run in and move that guy. But if I don't know where to put my feet or my hands or how to roll my hips through, that's going to make me a limited blocker. And so I think you can learn that and physically rep that. And then I think the other aspect of it is studying defenses and understanding how that guy's going to play you, what leverage he's trying to keep, and use those things to your advantage in accomplishing your job. So I think those are kind of the 2 areas that we try to work the hardest on improving.
Coach, what did you think about so many of the league's tight ends getting together, and did you talk to your guys about it? Is there anything that you like to hear that they picked up?
Yeah, it was the first day I got back with them after they left. It was one of the things I asked. Said, hey, how was it? What'd you do? What'd you learn? Anytime you get that many guys that are on the field, sharing ideas, sharing what they're doing, how they're doing it, you're going to get some pieces of information that are going to, not only help them in their game, but maybe help me as a coach and say, hey, I didn't think about it that way, or I didn't conceptualize it that way, but I need to moving forward because I think not only can I help you, but I can help guys coming down the line. So it was fun to hear, kind of how they did it. It sounded like they had a great time and also learned and talked a lot of ball, which was great.
So has Hooper traveled somewhere you want to go?
I'm not as big a traveler as him, if we're going to be perfectly honest. Plus, with an 8-month-old, we're pretty much stuck at home right now. But I think he went to Egypt this summer and had an amazing time, and some of the pictures he had were just unbelievable. So that was it was pretty impressive to see.
Something good to look at when you're...
Yes, I like the pictures. I like the pictures. I'm all in on the pictures.